What's up, everybody? Welcome to the View from Jamestown podcast edition. This is episode 17. This is the November View from Jamestown. I'm sitting down this morning with TCC President Rob Roach and Latin American Operations Manager Javier Fernandez. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Hello, hello.
Nice sunny Tuesday we have here.
Yes, it is. Happy to be here.
After yesterday, I thought we were done. We were in winter. We weren't going to see the sun for 6 months, and got a little bit nicer today. So it's good to see. Lots of stuff going on. Obviously, getting a little bit colder. We're getting into the winter season. Seeing some seasonal stuff change. Obviously, a couple big topics going on around the industry and globally as well, global economics and things going on. Starting off, one of the biggest ones that obviously has been impacting supply chains with the chemical industry, but it's a much bigger issue and much bigger topic beyond just the chemical industry, is the situation with the Rhine River in Germany, with impacting barges and supply for companies and pretty much every industry up and down the river in Germany and throughout Europe. So what's going on? You want to give an overview of what's happening over there and what we're seeing on the chemical side, how it's impacting it?
I think we need a rain dance right now. No, the Rhine River has seen unprecedented low levels just because of some spectacular European weather that's been going on throughout the summer. No rain, warm, even hot, sunny.
Which is great for a lot of things, except for when you need the rain to fill the river.
I mean, it's great for many, many things, but the river is the pulse. It's the vein that runs. It's the aorta. It's the major vein that runs the German and a lot of the European chemicals production, amongst other things. And when barge traffic is at a standstill, or you have to load excessively light barges, major things happen worldwide with supply chains, and that's what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, I think the last update I saw, the river is currently at 20 inches of depth at the deepest part, which is just under 2 feet, which for a river is incredible.
70 some centimeters. Yeah, it's
I think I saw the critical, a typical critical number for that river is 40 inches.
Wow.
40 inches is bad. So 20 inches is whatever is worse than bad.
Really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard just the other day from one of our producing partners over there that if it goes down even just a couple more inches, it'll really it'll have devastating impacts on many major integrated producers, and worse than it already has. We've already seen the effects.
Yeah, I think barges are already at 30 to 50% full, and that's even pushing it. So it's not going to go much lower than that to make the barge even somewhat economically friendly to move anything on it. So
we also saw that Germany tapped into their reserves, their oil reserves. Fourth time in 40 years they've done this just to support this crisis. BASF has, Ludwigshafen has a force majeure. We're probably going to see more of these.
Yeah, and I saw too, it's going to push capacity to trucking in Europe as well, kind of like what we've seen with trucking in the U.S., pushing things onto rail and things like that. And I saw an article that trucking could just come to a standstill in Europe because all that barge traffic, the necessities are going to get pushed to trucking, and they just don't have the capacity for that.
And a lot of the trucking issues that we see here, they are also expecting the same thing. They're also seeing same shortage of drivers. So that's going to make the thing more complex as it is.
Yeah, there's only so much that the rail system and the truck can support. There's only so much without the barge system. It's critical worldwide in terms of its impacting availability and, of course, pushing price up. But in some cases, we've seen where it's pushed price down because our producing partners can't take their finished goods, put them in a barge, ship them to Rotterdam for export. So they've just said, anybody and everybody come in and take ISO containers and get them the heck out of here because we need room. They're still producing, but they can't put it in a barge. So ISOs are also under tremendous amount of pressure.
And obviously, we're looking at this from a very narrow chemical industry focus.
True.
But I saw one note that the grain harvest this year was 36 million tons. Over the last 5 years, the average per year was 47.9. So that's a 12 million ton shortage of grain.
Wow.
From this issue, from not being able to move it around. So obviously, it goes way beyond just what we're focusing on, throughout Germany and throughout Europe.
To me, it's amazing in my career to see over the last 20 years the effect of weather on our supply chain. And again, it is that narrow chemical supply chain, but who would have thought that, the major impacts on supply chains would be weather and geopolitical situations. And that's really what the major impacts have been from. And I keep my TV on to the news stations. I pay attention to it because, I've learned from the past, this is what has major impacts on what we're doing here at the chemical company.
And it's amazing. It's something that you take for granted. There's a river. It's along a very populated area, and a lot of big businesses are right along the river. You just assume there's going to be water in the river, and all of a sudden there's not, and there's no fix for it. There's no contingency plan.
And they're Europeans. Like, they should have, planned for this. They're planners.
Yeah.
They should have had. They're Germans. They should have had some system in place so this wouldn't happen. Come on.
I mean, at least with trucking, it's easier said than done. But if there's less trucks, or if there's an issue with trucks, you buy a new truck or you get a new driver. There's no water in the river. There's nothing you can do about that.
Jeez.
Those volumes are huge, so not even with the rail capacity of the truck, it's not economical, and it's impossible.
I mean, what do you think the capacity is for one barge to put into trucks? 100 trucks per barge, 50 trucks per barge?
Yeah, 50 to 1,000, 2,000 tons, I think, is about right. Yeah.
So all of a sudden,
500 to 2,000 tons, depending on the size of the barge.
So all of a sudden, you just got to find 50 to 75 trucks out of nowhere to move the stuff.
Yeah, they don't arrive. They don't come out of thin air. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely something to keep an eye on. Hopefully, let's pray for rain in Europe.
As well, this goes into other topics like the tariff topic for the U.S. There's obviously retribution in terms of tariffs into China. They're looking to source grains, as you mentioned, agricultural products elsewhere. If they can't get it from Europe, they're falling back on having to get it from the United States. They're going to have to import it despite, import duties on things like soy and wheat and whatnot. So, it is forcing the hand of other countries to source from us despite the fact that it may not be the most economic. Now it is the most economic, even with the duties, et cetera. So
it almost becomes not necessarily about economics. It's just you need it. Whatever the price is going to be, it's not a matter of price. It's a matter of do you have it or don't.
I mean, the Rhine's not rising, but one thing that is constantly rising is the global population of humans. So they need that support, and they'll just have to pay more for it.
Yep. So moving on, I think a big topic going on right now, being about to be early November, is the election season we're in. Not a presidential election, but obviously lots of other important things on the ballot and things that are going to be decided here in the next couple weeks. What are we seeing so far? Any potential impacts or things that might be hedged coming into the election season?
It's just completely out of control right now, the divisiveness in America. We've seen pipe bombs. We've seen hate shootings. We've seen rhetoric from both sides that is just completely out of control. Politics in America right now is just not fun. It's not fun at all. It's not meant to be fun, I guess, but it's meant to be balanced. And there's no balance here. And I think that based on what I'm seeing today, I think that the conservatives will maintain their control. That's my guess. I think if they do, at least, this strong economy will continue. If they don't maintain control, there could be some confusion. And I don't know if that's good for anybody, but it is going to be an important election, absolutely. And hopefully it'll bring some semblance to, the news and the politics and the divisiveness that's going on in America and throughout the world now. There's a lot of reflection of America going on in other countries, and it's sad to see the extremes on both sides. We need to bring balance and get back to the middle and start working together. And I hope that's the result of this election.
And I know you spent time at EPCA and have spent time with contacts in Europe, and obviously speak often with people in Mexico and South America and Latin America. Have there been any inclinations of general overviews of or what people are thinking of doing business with the U.S. or just managing operations with the U.S.? Is it overall positive, negative? What's kind of the general vibe you're hearing from people?
I mean, with doing business with the U.S. and buying from the U.S. is good at this point, and everyone's looking with good eyes and see good fundamentals on the economics of the U.S. On the political side, probably the U.S. is not viewed very well, but that's only one aspect, and that cannot reflect on the country's power. Just the most power,
So the business and the economics of the U.S. has still been positive, regardless
yeah.
of what's happening with.
and it will be.
Yeah.
So that, it's an ongoing thing.
Yeah, there hasn't been any mutual respect between America and other countries, and that has to change. I mean, as humans, we need to show mutual respect. If we just, if me as the president of the chemical company walked around this office every day just pointing out the negatives of every one of my employees, I mean, what kind of environment would that be to work in? You don't want to constantly point out you want to bring out their positives and bring optimism, hope.
Except Javier.
Well,
brings the best out in Javi.
I just hope that the rhetoric settles down a bit.
And then while I was at EPCA Europe, I saw a lot of confusion from the European side to see what's going on. Where is all the Chinese tariff affecting the U.S.? Where is the material going to go? So you kind of see kind of a dumping material and also a lot of finished goods already entering the European market. So they're on a wait and see mode, but I think very concerned with the situation. And for a personal perspective, I saw a lot more Asian colleagues at the EPCA than other years.
Wow.
Yeah, I think there's probably a lot happening right now that we're not going to know about till 3 or 6 months, and next summer we can reflect back on what's happening right now and really how it all impacted. We're just right in the middle of it.
I think to Javi's point, we're already seeing the effects of the tariffs in Mexico, Latin America, as well as Europe, where raw material prices of the products that we compete in the Americas and throughout the world on are super low all of a sudden because they don't have the export market to the U.S. Korea still does. I'm not sure why. Well, I know why that is. Korea can still dump all their products into the U.S. with low duties. It's because they're spying on North Korea for us. I mean, there's just a benefit there. So we allow the Koreans to continue to operate and dump products in here for whatever they make. The Chinese situation is a far bigger picture. Cyber war, the South China Sea, the future that they're bringing, the third plenum, what they're angling to be in the future is a big part of this. It's not just the fact that they've been taking advantage of America and dumping in low-cost goods here, because other people are obviously doing it and are allowed to do it. So, there's been a lot of hints that this is the new Cold War, and so with that in mind, I think that this will continue. I don't think we're going to be able to come to any sort of agreement with China anytime soon.
I think I saw an article this morning. Trump's preparing tariffs on pretty much the rest of the products that come in from China, and I think there's a meeting in a couple of weeks with the U.S. and China. And I would assume if that doesn't go well, then Trump's going to have this tariff list in his back pocket. So things could all of a sudden get a whole lot worse again, or confusing for that matter.
I'm sure China's got their own tariff list in their pocket. I mean, it's always tit for tat.
Yep. One thing we talked about a little bit, mostly with Europe, but obviously something important here is what's happening with the trucking and logistics industry. I think the general vibe that we've heard is that things are getting at least a little bit better with availability. Obviously, pricing is still high. There's still longer lead times than we had even a couple of years ago. But it sounds like things might be getting at least a little bit better and a little bit easier to get lanes and quotes on different things.
I think that's what we're hearing from our logistics partners is there's now some availability. It's not certainly great, but it's better than it was.
Which isn't great news, but it's not bad news, so that's a good thing at this point. And then moving into some pricing updates for November, I think a lot of things have seen pretty much flat. A couple of rolls, a couple of things down. Plasticizers obviously moving up for November. What else are we seeing for November?
Well, I think that the Rhine River is having an overall effect on a lot of products. Forcing many up, but also forcing many down. On the plasticizer side, we're seeing up 5 on branched and up 10 on linear. There was obviously the Shell fire in Great Britain that's having a major effect on linear alcohol is not expected to be up till Q4 of 2019. So this is a long-term problem. And if you are a consumer of linear plasticizers, you may want to contact the chemical company and talk about our linear plasticizer line, including the Chemflex 206. It looks like methanol will go up slightly with an outage in Trinidad and some other outages, as well as some turnarounds or less production in China. We're seeing propylene down, so a lot of the propylene derivatives will be, including oxos, will probably be coming lower. And a lot of the oxo turnarounds last year or this year are now over. So we're seeing good production rates. Things like ammonia and urea are under some pressure. But I think we're going to roll going into November at this point. Generally, benzene is a little bit lower with oil. Oil's down a little bit from 73 to say 67. We're talking WTI. So that'll drive things like benzene slightly lower. I think it's at around 269 right now.
Which month over month was a big drop. I think we were at 288 when we did the October recording. So decent drop, 15, 20 cents.
Yeah, it hasn't settled yet for November. It won't settle until the first few days of November. We won't know exactly where benzene will. A lot of times it changes overnight. So we're not going to bet on that. But, globally, naphtha is certainly up in Europe, and you got paraxylene up in Asia. So things like orthoxylene might get some pressure in Asia, and also things like people that are dependent on orthoxylene to make plasticizers are going to see higher prices. So it's interesting, something like plasticizers or esters in general, which really didn't see the value uptick that other things did based on the tariffs and based on the lack of availability for certain areas due to the tariffs, are now getting a price push.
How would you agree with the different products you manage and prices you're seeing globally, Latin America, South America, conversations you're having with people in Europe?
Yeah, you see a little bit of mix between roll and up and some down. It's a mix of everything. You cannot, some geopolitical issues, some weather issues, some supply-demand issues, or sometimes regulation changes. So it's got to keep updated with the news and see what's going on.
Yeah, it's amazing the balance between politics with the tariffs and things like that going on, with raw material outages. There's so many different factors that can impact products so differently. It's crazy sometimes to keep an eye on it, everything happening, and try to put it all together.
Yeah, that's what makes this job very interesting.
Yeah,
that's what makes it fun.
Moving on, featured new products. Not too many new products, but couple featured, just based on seasonal trends and things that are going to start to get busy again. What are we seeing coming into the colder months? How's the outlook on different things?
Well, it's not, we typically go through a period up here in the Northeast of stormy weather pattern in the end of October, and then November is usually beautiful, but there's definitely going to be a ramp up in, seasonal products. Usually starts September, October, but really kicks in November, December. Whether it's downhole or windshield wash, antifreeze, all these types of products really need to, bulk up inventory right now. I'm not really sure how cold or snowy of a winter we're going to have. It seems one year is, warm and sunny for the whole winter, and the next we've got tens of feet of snow. So you have to be prepared for it to go either way. And so we're seeing some strong demand in our seasonal products.
Yeah, I'm a big summer person, so let's hope for let's hope for the lighter winter. Javi, you're back a couple weeks from the EPCA. I think we mentioned it briefly maybe on the last episode. But how was the EPCA? What's kind of the general consensus of things you're hearing from people you met with out there?
So a lot of people from Europe, Asia, especially Korea, they are keeping an eye on what products what we're importing into the U.S. from China, and now people are looking for replacements. So a lot of people have interest in the U.S. market to replace those products with Indian goods, Korean goods, European goods. So it's very dynamic at this point.
As if it wasn't before, it's very much a global marketplace at this point. With
It's a
people needing
reshuffle
source.
is what it is. It's a reshuffle, and when everything settles out, it could be all new supply chains from different regions of the world. So it spreads out the opportunity. It's probably not a bad thing in the long term.
And obviously something we put a big focus on with our security of supply campaign is meeting with all these different people and understanding what's happening in a global marketplace to give the best information and be in the best supply position.
Well, security of supply for us is exactly as you say. I mean, it just means we've done our diligence when it comes to our producing partners to make sure that, they're in a good cost position, they're integrated, they're focused and sustainable. Sustainable is a word that's thrown around a lot in our industry, but it just means that they're focused on the long term. And this is our perspective in business. It's long term. We want to make sure that we're not opportunistic. We're not trying to make the most out of every order that we get. We're trying to fulfill that order, keep our customers happy, and maintain a position of a good supply chain with good supply partners, as well as in our business, how we run our business. We're not for sale. We, every day we show up to work. We love what we do. We try and keep it a good environment, a very positive environment. And we do that for the benefit of our employees and our customers.
And obviously the last of the quote unquote big four conferences, the APPLA coming up in a couple weeks or next 2 weeks, November 10th.
2 weeks away.
2 weeks away. It's coming
Coming up soon. Definitely will be interesting, I think, especially for you, big one for you, and a lot of good meetings. So what's coming up with that? Are you looking forward to it?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it to see what are the supply opportunities coming from that side of the world. So a lot of people that are meeting their new intro, just to see what options we have to import their products and distribute it in the U.S. I mean, we have 25 salespeople, 13 warehouses over the states. We have the people in the ground, so it could be a good fit for some of them.
Yeah, that's good. That's obviously a lot of existing customers and suppliers and contacts, but a lot of new stuff, which will be good. Sounds like a good event.
Yeah, plus it's in Cancun, so I don't like it, but I'm going.
Someone's got to do it.
Someone's got to do it.
I thought we were going to supervise. Didn't we talk about this last time?
Yeah, I think we should.
Yeah. So that's kind of like the last big one for the year. I think it's been a busy trade show year and conference year, so I'm sure we're looking forward to being home for a little while, and Rob's looking forward to stop signing checks for trade shows. So
correct. Yeah, I mean, we're very dedicated to trade shows and events and things like that, but it is nice when you get a little time off.
Sure.
And you need to balance your travel. You still need to set up the deals. You need to make the quotes. You need to make sure that the logistics are in place. So you can't do that when you're constantly on the road. You need to settle down and make the deals.
And I think it's crazy that we're going to start talking about 2019, but that's coming up soon. I think the big one we're going to start putting out there is obviously the AFPM in March. I know we have a meeting internally this week, and we're going to start to get the word out a little bit, but we will have our third annual cocktail party at the AFPM.
That's going to be exciting.
I believe the date's March 24th, which is the Sunday of that weekend. So looking forward to that and starting to get the word out there. It's been a great event the last 2 years, and looking forward to keep it going.
Yeah, it's a great event. Lots of great food, discussions. Get to see a lot of our counterparts and from around the world, and we usually have a strong contingent of our sales personnel there and our administrative staff. So hope to see you there.
Wrapping things up, I think one of the big things we should mention briefly is the tariff situation. Obviously, the lists so far are complete, and in dates that they're going into effect are either already in effect or they're all fully announced. Now that we've kind of had a couple weeks to digest and have the full information, what's happening with the tariffs, still obviously a big focus, and thinking about deadlines if we're going to try to get stuff in from China before that January 1st deadline.
Yeah, it's already 10% in addition to any duties that were already in place. And effective Jan 1 is going to be an additional 15%, maybe even going higher beyond that. So you've got, a 25% increase in your cost of goods. Today being early November, if you don't have stuff on the water right now, you're going to be paying that 25% additional tariff. So that needs to be considered in your supply chain and, in your procedure and process to buy things worldwide. And so I hope, you've already considered the fact that your costs are up by that much, or you found another source that doesn't have that additional cost to it. Of course, China's doing a lot, export payments, payments to companies that export, to offset some of the pain of the tariff. I still think there's a lot of things that will come from China to the Americas, or specifically the United States that has the tariff situation. But there's certainly a lot of confusion right now, and definitely a slowdown of imports from China.
Just adding to that reshuffle, the global reshuffle.
Yeah, really is.
It's going to be the theme of the podcast, I think. Global
reshuffle.
Global reshuffling in the chemical industry.
Yeah, I think it's happened, it's happening, and it will continue to happen.
Yeah, and obviously we have our 3-part tariff podcast series that's up. So no matter where you're streaming this podcast, you can click back and stream a couple of those, at least the last one, which kind of gave the finite decision on where things settle with the tariff update. So that's a good overview if you're unfamiliar with the situation or want to refresh on where things are at. Also have a couple good podcasts that are currently live. We were able to sit down with some members from the Plastics Industry Association, which was good with a lot of the regulatory things happening and things that they're seeing a little bit further down the supply chain in the plastics industry. We also were able to sit down and talk to the NACD president, Eric Beyer, a couple weeks ago. Both those are live. Both those are a good listen, not just because we're releasing the podcast, but I think they really are good info and some interesting points from everyone that we were able to talk to with kind of things that are going on across the industry. So those are two. If you haven't had a chance to check out, we'll link them below, or just scroll back wherever you're listening, and they're up there. Any final notes heading in November?
Just that last November, December were very strong. We're hoping to have another strong November and December finish of the year. And October was very strong, so hope it continues.
Javier, thumbs up.
And stay warm for you ones that live in the Northeast.
Yeah, I'm sure you're looking forward to getting out of the Northeast here for at least a couple days. Get down to the warmth.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, thank you for listening. As always, we have the View from Jamestown podcast edition up and live anywhere you get your podcasts. YouTube, Google Play Store, Apple Store, SoundCloud, you name it, we're up there. So feel free to share and stream however you get your podcasts, and we will catch you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.